What if the man you trusted most, the father of your child, was hiding a truth that could shatter everything you thought you knew about your family? This is my story, a story of love, secrets, and the kind of pain you never see coming. I thought I married the most loving man in the world. Prince Will was charming, responsible, and everyone admired him. To the world, and to me, he seemed flawless. In the early years, our home was filled with laughter. Bella, our daughter, was his princess. He spent more time with her than I could because of my work schedule. I admired him for that. He would take her to school, help her with homework, and even braid her hair sometimes. I never suspected anything. Why would I? We were the picture of a perfect family, or so I believed. I used to brag to my friends, "I'm so lucky. Prince Will is not just a good husband, he's the best father too." Everyone envied me. My life felt like a dream. But little did I know, a storm was slowly brewing, and when it finally hit, it would rip my heart to pieces. As Bella grew older, something started to change, something I didn't want to admit at first. By the time she turned 8, she began pulling away from me. It wasn't loud or obvious, it was subtle, like a whisper you almost miss. She would avoid talking to me about her day. She spent most of her time in Prince Will's room. Hours would pass, and I would wonder, what could they possibly be doing for so long? When I asked, he would smile casually. "She just likes hanging out with Daddy." "Don't worry yourself, babe," he'd say, kissing my forehead as if that answered everything. And I wanted to believe him, so I did. I told myself I was just being paranoid, that maybe I worked too much and Bella felt closer to him. That made sense, right? But deep down, an uneasiness began to grow inside me like a shadow I couldn't escape. There were moments I would ask Bella, "Sweetheart, what do you and Daddy do in there all day?" And she would freeze. Her eyes would drop to the floor. She wouldn't say a word. Then Prince Will would suddenly jump in, laughing. "Aha, babe, why are you interrogating her? We're just playing games and watching cartoons. Nothing serious." His answer seemed harmless, but the way he rushed to explain, the way Bella stayed silent, it felt off. An invisible wall was forming between me and my own daughter, and I didn't know why. Sometimes I'd lie awake at night staring at the ceiling, telling myself, "You're overthinking. Prince Will loves both of you. You're just tired. Stop creating problems where there are none." But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was slipping out of my hands, that my daughter and my husband shared a secret I wasn't a part of. And soon, the truth would crash into me like a storm I never saw coming. I started noticing things that made my skin crawl, though there was no hard proof. Just shadows of suspicion. Prince Will's room door began staying locked at odd hours. Sometimes in the afternoons, other times late at night. When I'd knock, he'd always take a few seconds too long to open, smiling as if nothing happened. Bella's behavior only deepened my worry. Around other family members or friends, she looked uneasy, withdrawn. But around Prince Will? She clung to him like a lifeline. It wasn't normal. Children her age usually wanted to explore, play, run around. Bella just wanted him. Then there were the nights. Nights where I'd walk into our room and find him sitting on the edge of the bed, face lit by the cold glow of his phone screen. The look on his face? Nervous. Guilty even. But the moment he saw me, the screen would flip down, and he'd plaster on that charming smile. "Babe, you scared me. Can't a man just scroll through his phone in peace?" He would say it jokingly, and I'd force a smile back. But when I left, my chest would tighten with a heaviness I couldn't explain. My heart told me something wasn't right. A whisper that wouldn't leave me alone. But my mind tried to be the voice of reason. Maybe he's hiding some financial problem. Maybe there's another woman. Maybe you're just paranoid. But why did his phone lock tighter each day? Why did Bella's silence cut deeper than any words? I wanted to trust my husband. I wanted to believe the man I married, the father of my daughter, was still the same man I once adored. But something dark was growing under our roof, and I was too afraid to name it. One quiet afternoon, the kind of day when the house felt too still, I decided to clean our bedroom. Maybe I thought scrubbing floors and dusting shelves would scrub away the unease in my heart. But life has a cruel way of revealing what you try so hard not to see. While bending to wipe under Prince Will's drawer, my fingers brushed against something hard, wedged far back. I pulled it out. It was a tiny memory card, so small it could have been missed for years. My chest tightened. Why hide this? Curiosity gnawed at me like a restless animal. My hand shook as I slid it into my laptop. Dozens of video files appeared on the screen. Their names were strange, random letters and numbers, like they'd been coded to mean nothing to anyone but him. Every single file was password protected. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. Why would my husband hide these? Why were they encrypted? I wanted to slam the laptop shut, pretend I hadn't seen it, but my fingers hovered, trembling. The air around me felt heavier, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. I told myself, maybe it's work-related. Maybe it's some boring office thing. But deep down, my gut screamed otherwise. I glanced at Bella's drawing on the wall. She had painted a picture of Daddy and me last week. Her innocent handwriting made my stomach twist. There was something in those files. Something Prince Will never wanted me, or anyone, to see. And though I didn't yet know what it was, a seed of dread had taken root inside me. I couldn't shake the feeling that my life was about to change forever. That night, something happened that ripped open every buried suspicion in my soul. Bella walked into my room quietly, like a shadow. Her little feet barely made a sound, but her eyes spoke louder than any scream could. "Mommy, can I sleep here?" she whispered, voice trembling. It froze me. She hadn't asked to sleep in my bed since she was 4. "Of course, baby," I said, my throat tightening. As I wrapped my arms around her, I felt her tiny body shiver against mine. She didn't say much, just pressed her face into my chest, silent tears soaking my nightgown. My heart thudded painfully, as if it already knew the truth but didn't want to face it. Why was my daughter crying like this? Why did she look so broken? I looked into her eyes, and though no words came, there was a heaviness there. A storm of unspoken pain. And in that moment, I made a vow. A vow that would change everything. I will find out the truth. No matter what it costs me. No matter how much it hurts. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake holding Bella, my mind racing. The memory card. The locked doors. The strange texts. The way she clung to Prince Will and yet seemed uneasy around everyone else. The puzzle pieces were starting to connect, and I was terrified of the picture they were forming. But I also knew one thing: a mother's love does not run from the truth. It faces it, even when it burns. I wish I could say I screamed. I wish I could say I threw the phone away and pretended it wasn't real. But I didn't. I sat there, frozen, staring at the screen while my world turned to ashes. Hidden inside that strange app were videos and images of Bella. My little girl. Private, vulnerable moments that no one should ever see. And every single file was watermarked with the name of an online platform I'd never heard of before. My stomach lurched. My hand shook so violently I almost dropped the phone. Prince Will, the man I loved, the man who made me believe in forever, had been exploiting our daughter all these years. The room spun. I couldn't breathe. My mind screamed, no. This can't be true. But the evidence was right there. The man who kissed me goodnight, who prayed with us at dinner, who the world saw as a loving father, was a monster in our own home. I felt my chest cave in. It was betrayal worse than death. The man I vowed to protect my child with was the one I needed to protect her from. I dropped the phone and ran to the bathroom, sobbing, my body heaving with rage and grief. But even through the storm of pain, a deadly calm began to form inside me. This ends tonight. I wiped my tears and looked in the mirror. My reflection didn't look like me anymore, it looked like a mother ready for war. Whatever it took, whatever the cost, I would save Bella and make sure Prince will never hurt her again. This was no longer just my story. This was the story of a mother who refused to be silent. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear the walls down. I wanted to kill him with my bare hands. But Bella came first. Every time I looked into her little eyes, swollen from silent tears, I knew I couldn't fall apart, not yet. So I swallowed my pain and wore a mask of calm. While Prince Will smiled like the perfect husband, I was secretly plotting his downfall. I reached out to a trusted lawyer under the guise of a business consultation. I began gathering every piece of evidence I could find, his phone backups, those encrypted files, even Bella's quiet testimonies. Every night, while he snored peacefully, I hugged Bella tighter and whispered promises. Mommy will protect you. Mommy will fix this. But inside, my heart burned with rage and guilt. How had I missed the signs? How had I failed my own daughter? The house felt haunted with his secrets. Every corner, every locked door, every laugh we once shared, now a lie. And still, I had to pretend everything was normal. I served him dinner. I smiled at the neighbors. I even kissed him on the cheek, knowing exactly what monster lived beneath his skin. But behind my smile, I was building a storm. A storm that would wipe out every ounce of his deception. When the time came, there would be no warning, no mercy. Because this time, he picked the wrong woman. When I finally confronted Prince Will, it was as if the air itself froze. I still remember his face, the instant shock, the way his lips trembled, and his eyes darted like a trapped animal. Please, sweetie. I can explain, he stuttered, his voice breaking. But there was no explanation that could erase what I had seen. The evidence was there. Bella's tears were there. And the man I thought I knew was nothing more than a stranger wearing my husband's skin. He fell to his knees, his body shaking. He begged, clawing at my dress like a man drowning, swearing it was a mistake, swearing it would never happen again. He cried so hard that snot ran down his face, calling himself possessed, blaming some unseen force for his evil. And yet, even as he wept, all I felt was disgust. He tried to twist my emotions. He said he loved me. He said he loved Bella. He said he didn't want to lose his family. But what kind of man does that to the child he claims to love? What kind of father locks doors, hides files, and robs a little girl of her innocence? The rage inside me clashed with the years of love I once thought I had for him. I wanted to hit him. I wanted to drag him to the police that very second. But instead, I stood there frozen, shaking with emotions too heavy for my chest. That night, I cried harder than I ever had in my entire life. Not just for myself. Not just for Bella. But for the illusion I had called marriage, the man I thought was my safe place, the home I thought I had built. It all burned down that night. And as I held Bella close to my chest, one thought carved itself into my soul. He would never hurt her again. No matter what it took. I don't know how it happened. One moment, I was screaming inside, the next. I found myself in his arms. Prince Will was desperate. His words were honey-coated with sorrow and false remorse. He held me, kissed my tears, whispered promises that everything would be different. And somehow, in that storm of betrayal, rage, and pain, I gave in. I can't explain why. Maybe it was the memory of the man I thought I married. Maybe it was the ghosts of our early years together. Or maybe it was just my body responding to a love it thought was still there. That night, we made love, the kind we hadn't shared in years. It felt almost like the night Bella was conceived, and the weight of that memory broke me even more. Because while he was using intimacy to erase the horror I had seen, I knew deep inside that he could never erase what he had done. He thought he was winning me back. He thought his touch could rewrite the truth. But as his body pressed against mine, my tears fell silently. I remembered Bella's eyes, the silent pain she carried. I remembered the locked doors, the files, the betrayal. And that night, while he held me and whispered that we were still a family, my resolve hardened like steel. He didn't know it, but something inside me had already shifted forever. There was no going back. The man I once loved was gone. And the woman lying next to him was no longer his wife, she was a mother preparing for war. Prince Will thought his manipulation had worked. He didn't realize that every soft kiss, every whispered "I love you," was only pushing me closer to a decision that would destroy him. He had broken something sacred. And I was done protecting his secret. The sun barely rose when I made my choice visible. He came into the kitchen with that sly, confident smirk. The same one that told me he believed his tears, his fake remorse, and his body had worked like magic. He thought last night erased everything. He thought the nightmare was over. But when I slid the divorce papers across the table, his smirk collapsed into pure shock. "Miriam, what is this?" he stammered, voice shaking. I looked him in the eye with a calmness that came from pain turned into power. "You thought you bought my silence with tears, with apologies, with your hands on my body? You thought I'd keep your secret because of one night?" My voice didn't tremble. It carried every sleepless night, every silent tear, every scream I swallowed for Bella. "Maybe last night was your last supper," I said quietly. "The last time you'll ever touch me. The last taste of my honey you'll ever know." His face drained of color. He fell to his knees, begging, panicking, realizing he had lost his power. But my heart was locked on Bella. He thought I'd protect him. He was wrong. I chose Bella. I chose freedom. And I chose justice. As I signed the final page, my hands didn't shake. I had already gathered the evidence. The law would handle the rest. And no matter how long it took, he'd face the consequences of what he did. That day, I held Bella's hand tightly. She looked at me with innocent confusion, unaware of the war I had fought for her. And I realized something powerful. The worst betrayal always comes from those closest to us. But so does the strength to rise again. We walked out of that house with nothing but our dignity and each other. And for the first time in years, I felt free. The love I thought I lost wasn't in Prince Will. It was in the little girl beside me. And in the woman I became when I chose her over him. This was not just the end of a marriage. It was the rebirth of me and Bella. And no man would ever steal that from us again. My name is Miriam. Miriam Cheeb. I'm a 32-year-old mother, healing from the deepest pains love ever gave me. But I'm also proof that even in betrayal, you can rise again, stronger and freer. If this story touched you, don't let it end here. Share it with someone who needs courage. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done if you were me? And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon. Here on Love Tales by Mars Squad, we tell real, raw, and healing stories of love, heartbreak, and redemption. Because every ending births a new beginning.